right, so now we're going to talk about gold and agriculture. First, Roy Maconachie, who is a professor of national resources and development in the Department of Social and Policy Sciences at the University of Bath, is going to do a presentation. And then Laura Galvis with the Alliance for Responsible Mining and I are going to join Dr. Maconachie for a conversation about agriculture and gold. So, Roy, are you there somewhere? There you are.
Thanks. Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here again. I was here in November last year giving a presentation on artisanal diamond mining in Sierra Leone. And I've recognized a few of the faces from last time. This time I'm going to be talking about gold, which is a newer area of research for me. But many of the same issues apply, I think. And our session today is looking at gold and agriculture. And Laura's going to be giving a presentation, or discussing, I guess, Colombia. So you're going to get a bit of West Africa and a bit of Latin America as well. So I've been doing research on the extractive industries and development in West Africa for 20 years now. I first started working in Sierra Leone just after the war ended, and a lot of you will be familiar with what happened in the 1990s because of the links between diamonds and conflict. But I've been looking basically at large-scale mining investments, but more specifically artisanal mining, and looking at both diamonds and gold. By background, I'm a human geographer, so I'm interested in spatial relationships and the sort of links between different scales. I very much focus on the micro level. So I spend a lot of time in the field. I was just in Sierra Leone actually last week. Up to 2 months of the year I'm in the field, and I'm very focused on understanding what happens locally. So it's been really interesting, hearing some of the conversations here about market-led development and looking at the sort of top of the chain. I very much focus on the bottom, and I hang out with miners and I listen to their stories, and I really try to understand, what's going on. And it's a great honor to be able to share that with you, because I think as academics, or certainly me, I'm very concerned that the work I do has some kind of impact beyond academia, beyond just publishing the stuff in journals. And if the information is of use to you or of interesting to you, then that's absolutely great. So I use mining to basically as a vehicle to look at a whole suite of different issues, development issues, everything from child labor, environmental impacts, looking at formalization issues, and also gender is something I've been looking at, but also the links between mining and farming. And I think there's quite a strong entrenched negative narrative that mining and agriculture don't go together. I'm going to try and present a more sort of positive perspective today, based on some of the work that I've been doing in Sierra Leone, and looking at the links between artisanal gold mining and farming. So, I don't think I'm going to go into detail on this slide. I think we all understand what the issues are around artisanal small-scale mining. In Sierra Leone, we're talking about very rudimentary, low-tech extraction and processing, typically of diamonds, but also of gold, and they're also artisanally mining other minerals there now too. And going back to what Susan said right at the beginning yesterday, that this is really a poverty-driven sector. And this is what drives people to do this kind of mining. In rural areas in Sierra Leone, there's very few options for employment, beyond agriculture. So this is one way that people can generate income to support their families. People can't live on farming alone. They need money for certain things, and this is one possible way of doing it. There's lots of people doing this all over the world. We talked, I think Susan yesterday mentioned 40 million as the number of miners, artisanal miners worldwide. It's difficult to get a really accurate number because a lot of it is happening informally, but there's certainly many, many people doing it. And the number of dependents who benefit from each direct miner is important as well, I think. So the World Bank uses a figure of a multiplier factor of 1 to 6. So for every one person mining, there's 6 people who benefit. And despite the risks, there's a lot of positive spin-offs from the income that's generated, spawning startup capital for downstream industries, and nourishing small-scale agriculture in rural Sierra Leone. We see that, typically in an African rural setting, you see people who have what we might refer to as a diversified livelihood portfolio. So they're doing all kinds of different things, and they're spreading risk. They're farming, they're running small businesses, and in Kano District, where I've been doing most of my work in Sierra Leone, they're also mining. That's part of this portfolio. And we see the circulation of labor happening at different times of the year, so people are straddling different productive activities. And this is happening at different times of the year, so seasonality is really important as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. So when I first started working in Sierra Leone in 2003, I was looking at post-conflict reconstruction in Kano. And this is the diamondiferous area, as many of you know, in Sierra Leone. And this is where some of the fiercest battles were fought during the war. There's a lot of debate about the role that diamonds played in the war, whether it was the cause of the war or it was fueling the war, but they were certainly implicated. And when I arrived in Kano in 2003, everything was destroyed. There was no, the buildings had been completely burned down and destroyed. The roads were a mess. There was no electricity. And there was no food. I mean, it was, people had abandoned the village for 10 years during the war, and the farms had completely overgrown. So I basically, the first 3 months there, I survived on bush meat and bush yams. So one of the things I was immediately interested in is, how can we rejuvenate agriculture? What kinds of things need to be done to get that going again? And people were still mining, and they were trying to start their farms up. But what became apparent to me is that there was this really interesting relationship between diamond mining and the farming cycle. So you see that during the dry season, people will go to the mining areas and do some mining. They'll save a little bit of money. And then during the rainy season, when they were needed on their farms, they would shift. So there was this kind of dovetailing almost between the two economies. And you can see, the seasonal profiles here. This sort of shows how the farming system works. Rice is the main crop that people are growing in Sierra Leone. That's the staple crop. So the relationship between the two was quite important. There's a lot of negative things we can say about mining. We all know that there are problems, and that's why a lot of us, I think, are concerned about these supply chains. Thinking about issues around governance. Most of the mining in Sierra Leone is happening informally, although there's a big drive towards formalization. And with these informal spaces, we see, the potential for exploitation, for poor working conditions, and a host of other problems. One of the things, I'm not going to go into detail on this, but one of the things that has become apparent recently to me is that traditional, in addition to all these challenges and problems, traditional artisanal diamond mining is becoming much more difficult. Diamonds were discovered in the 1930s. Alluvial deposits are found along the main river streams in Sierra Leone, the Moa, the Bafi, the Sewa River. And these areas have been mined and mined again, for many, many years. So getting those deposits now, they're not, you have to go very deep now, actually, to recover a lot of these diamonds. So it's becoming harder for local people to do this kind of work. They don't have the finance to hire the big excavators and things. So they're relying on foreign capital a lot of the time to invest. But it is this very important local livelihood activity, and people who can no longer recover diamonds are looking for other possibilities. I think one of the interesting things that's going on, and this is really what I've noticed in the last 10 years or so, is that there's been a real move towards artisanal gold mining. So Sierra Leone is a very resource-rich country. There's loads of different minerals. And gold has been something that has been almost an afterthought. You know, people haven't really been interested in it until recently. It's been all about diamonds. And now that, you know, people have sort of tuned in that there's this, you know, these alluvial gold deposits are around, lots of people have started mining it, you know, particularly with the higher prices of gold these days. Many people have spent years and years looking for diamonds and haven't found any. It's a much more stable source of income, the gold mining. So also there's no need for, you know, training or the valuation. You know, the four C's. This is a skill, you know, that a lot of you here will have. But for local people, you know, they don't understand what the value of a diamond is worth a lot of the time, and they get ripped off. Gold is a different story. You know, everyone has a mobile phone. They know what the global price of gold is. So it's become a much more reliable source of income. This photograph here is an area, an artisanal diamond mining plot that's been mined by an excavator, and you can see the extent of the disruption to the local environment from this kind of work. So I started looking at artisanal gold mining a few years ago, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about how farming relates to the places that I've been working in. I've been doing some work in Mabai, which you see in the middle of the map there, around Maconachie, and there's loads of women doing artisanal gold panning along the Pampana River. This is a gold-rich area. There's lots of interest in that. And the other place that I've been working, that I'm going to talk about today, is Bandafai in Kono district. And this is typically a diamond mining area. You had the National Diamond Mining Company doing work there in the 1950s and 1960s, and there's loads of tailings around from the diamond mining. And these tailings are full of gold dust, free gold, that people are now going over the tailings and removing the gold from it. So I've got a couple of video clips. I want to talk to you. This is a photograph of Bandafai. This is the old NDMC site, and you can see there's a lot of women doing extracting gold there. They're using very rudimentary technology. You know, they're recovering a reasonable amount of gold, but I think with improved technology, they could probably be getting more. But this video clip I want to show you just show some of the women that I've been working with. Just give you an idea of how important this is to them and the kinds of things that they're doing with the money, the productive things they're doing to support their families.
The capital derived from gold mining makes an important contribution to the household economy, and many women described how their income was used to pay for essential household items, including food, clothes, school fees and books, and family medical costs.
I can't work here. For my get job with me picking there, I get 6 picking there. So now the work I can do, I might get living for me picking there. You know better. For my get living for me picking there, make so they go school. See? So don't do me.
Tena manambo vya goli waita ni chukuki amfeneke sanje kopo imbo matre ansankuya poplene dia kopo imbo dia simi mbuo so ni nani ntenda mimi maso be da mfune bonoa na twetwa na kitina de na skuku ya o na kuwasa o na kowasa ni fense matoni mena kuyebia jula mwenuma na jula mwenme na ne atom Mr. Salvi ame best of life like tumu kope ka unkana aya be wai once ima banifa de kia kuye boku ya teni tuwa aya be wai ya waike wiki dono bima ya waike ya agoli be so be mani ndika.
So it's a really important part of these local livelihood portfolios, and you get an idea of some of the things that the women are using the money for. What wasn't apparent from that clip is the importance that it's playing in terms of rejuvenating agriculture. And like the artisanal diamond mining economy, we see that with gold, there's this very close relationship with seasonal relationship with farming activities. Many of the people that I talked to in Bandafai told me that they were doing gold panning and gold mining in the dry season, so that's roughly between February and May. And then they would use that money again to pump into their farms and put into their farming activities in the rainy season when they needed to shift and grow some food. So in Sierra Leone, labor is really important on farms, and traditionally there's been these reciprocal labor relationships where groups of people will come together and work on one farm, and then they'll move to another farm, so they help each other out. And this does require some capital in order to do this kind of reciprocal relationship. It's called BOMA in Kono or Kombi in Mende. And the gold mining has been really important for helping to reactivate these labor relationships. So typically the person who owns the farm will have to pay for food and palm wine. There is some money involved. So women have been using their gold mining to reactivate these labor cycles. And they've also been using it to start agricultural businesses, which I think is really interesting. So women have been going around, gold mining women have been moving around the surrounding villages in the areas where they're mining and buying up a range of different foodstuffs from farmers, things like cassava, eggplants, oranges, limes, and mangoes. And they're pooling together and they're renting a truck and they're putting it in the back of the truck, and then they're driving into Freetown and they're selling it. Even with the cost of paying for the transport, they're still making a pretty good profit. So these figures are taken from a few years ago. I should probably update this data, but you can see the price where they're purchasing around the village in Mabai, and then you can see what they're getting for those things in Freetown. So it's it's really entrepreneurial and it's really inspirational, I think, to see how women take that money and they really make it grow and they can do amazing things with it. So this wouldn't happen unless there was some sort of startup capital from the gold mining. According to one of the women that I spoke to, she says, "For the past few months, I've been mining steadily, and now that I have this little bit of money in my pocket, I can start to purchase produce from nearby villages. A person who owns an orange tree may approach you and offer to sell you the produce from the tree during the rainy season. At this time, it's possible to purchase the entire orange tree for a good price, while the oranges are still ripening." So they're even in the dry season, before the crop is ready, they're making these deals with farmers, paying them for it, and then coming back and harvesting in the rainy season. Like diamond mining and many of the other conversations we've been having about artisanal mining elsewhere, there's a host of problems with artisanal gold mining. I think formalization is a big issue in Sierra Leone. And we need to think about how women can be supported to harness the real benefits of gold and certainly pump that back into agriculture. Basic things like infrastructure and buying houses are just not available. So often when we talk about formalization, the discussion is really about licensing and bringing illegal miners into the legal domain. And that's, of course, important. But for me, formalization is much more than just the licensing issue. It's about how we can support, how we can build a platform around legalization. Things like access to land, access to more productive technology, better marketing linkages, and financial arrangements are key as well. And the next clip I want to show you will, I think, give you an idea of how difficult it is for women when they don't have someone to sell the gold to. They're often operating in very remote areas. There are no roads. And it's not easy. A country like Ghana has a very well-established buying system where people can sell the gold. It's just not like this in these rural parts of Sierra Leone. So this next clip I want to show you, I think, covers that and discusses the challenges of that.
Gold mining in Sierra Leone is a female-dominated activity and can provide a steady and reliable income for women. Women miners in Bandafai report that during a productive week, more than 10 carats of gold can be mined, which can then be sold to local buyers, referred to as doulas. As explained by the chairlady of Bundafai's Women's Miners Association, the relationship that a miner has with the doula is essential to ensuring that there is a steady flow of income coming into the household.
All the women, the way they did, for them picking a school business, then the living. Because now, right now, nothing, no, the woman they not get. If you not go more mine, you know they get nothing. Woman in the mine, they know they get. We the woman, and I make will take each pan whole land with the mine. We the woman, they don't suffer too much with picking. And the sufferness, but what they take her for picking them, make they take her sufferness. Because now picking they go school, they say free education, but we not see the free education. If you not get money, you picking they go school. That make the woman and back tie or job. For let we picking they go school. That make the mind go. We not get money in about July, then they trust we. They sorry for it and they trust we. But we'll get out, we give them back. If you not give them, they give you other one. So that's what it did.
This is my own community, you know. By doing this, I help these women. As you see them doing their job, I loan them money, and after washing, they return the gold back to me. So I did. Some of them were here. From this, they get their money to pay their fees for their children. Their daily survival comes from this place because there is no job. They were not educated, no skill training, except they come to the mining and have their living, and then after which they pay school fees for their children.
So it's interesting talking to these informal buyers, these doulas, who claim they're providing a service to these women and they're there to help them. They're loaning them money, and the women are often paying the money back over time in gold. But the price they're receiving is a very, it's not a good rate that they're getting from the doula. So, and a lot of the doulas are coming from Guinea. They're coming from Liberia. They're not. I don't think they're really interested in developing the area. They're business people, and this is something the women have to rely on because there's nothing more than that. There's no formal system, so they have to rely on these doulas. We did a study in Kailahan district, is where you can see the arrow there. It's quite a remote part of Sierra Leone, and we were interested in the sort of informal transactions that were happening across the borders. So we embedded a research assistant for 12 months in this area in Kailahan. And every 2 weeks, they would go and talk to a sample of miners that we were working with over the year and ask them, how much have you mined, how much have you sold, who have you sold it to, where has it gone? And we found, that almost all of it, 84% of it, a huge percent of it, was going across the border into Guinea. And that was really because there was no infrastructure. Things like roads, people can't afford to ply the roads and go to a place like Maconachie or to Freetown to sell the gold. So they sell it to these buyers who come across the border. So a lot of this gold was disappearing. It's going through these very porous borders. And if we really are serious about thinking about how can we harness this gold resource for developing Sierra Leone, we need to, I think about the fact that a lot of it is actually disappearing. I'm getting there. Sorry. So just a few quick concluding thoughts, and then we will have our conversation about this. From the presentation I've given, I hope you can see that there's a really important relationship between farming, gold mining and farming. These two economies very much dovetail each other. They're being used, the money's being used by women to rebuild associations and to pump into businesses. But the policy mechanism in Sierra Leone for gold mining is really, I think, not very good. We need to think about how more support can be given to these women, things like basic infrastructures, but also access to market, access to credit, technological support. There's this very strong gender dimension, but the current policy machinery has really done very little to help them. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you for bearing with me. Yeah.
So we're going to spend a few minutes talking about gold and agriculture and the intersection, and then Laura Galvis also has some slides to present. So It was interesting to me that there's the seasonal intersection between agriculture and mining in Sierra Leone. In Central and South America, do you see the seasonal intersection, or can they, because we're talking about two very different regions with very different, environmental impacts. So do you see the seasonality there, or does agriculture and mining live together?
They live together, you can say that. And we are very close to the Ecuador, so our seasons are not as, we don't have really strong seasons. We might have the rainy season and then a drier season. And the type of mining that I'll be addressing is underground mining, so it doesn't affect the water supplies and the alluvial mining in this case. So it's kind of different. And also, for example, farming in Colombia, sometimes we're talking about coffee farming. They get 2 harvests a year, but it's something more all across the year.
Another question that occurred to me for both of you is there a risk of mining becoming so dominant in their ability to have access to capital, not just because of the value of the gold, but also because of their access to loans, which are hard to get against agricultural interests even in developed countries? Is there this risk that the mining would replace the agriculture and that would lead to further food insecurity or other economic disadvantage?
I mean, I think that's very much been the thought, which I'm sure in some places that does happen. You get this rush where people exit agriculture altogether. Let's be honest. I mean, it's not, for a lot of people in West Africa anyway, being a farmer, a subsistence farmer, is not something to aspire to. When we talk about agriculture, there's almost a stigma to that. And people, they think about the kind of farming that their parents might have done, just sort of very basic farming, not a lot of money in it. What we see in Sierra Leone as well, and I didn't really cover this, but there is an interest in more sort of commercial crops now that you can actually make some money from. So coffee, cocoa, cola nuts, citrus, all these things have been part of the farming system for a long time. But I was there last year, and people are really sort of mobilizing and thinking about what kind of farming can we do that's going to actually make money now. And with some investment, with some improved technologies in the farming, I think it can be done. So I think I think that is something that's on people's radar now.
And same thing, I think it can affect the way the communities were working. If we're talking about a specific mine that comes to my mind, is Iquira in Colombia. This is one of the biggest and first for mine certified mines that we got. This used to be a community of coffee farmers, and when they got the access to the mining titles, the economy switched completely. They got a lot of economic development opportunities with the mining. All of the mines in that region are part of that cooperative that is Fair Mine certified, and so it did switch, but they're still a part of the culture that has been for I believe about 3 generations. Those families that are coffee farmers. So there is a switch in the economy. They will pursue mining as their prime form of productive activity. But there is still like the intention, and we'll see that in new generations that come in, and also with the development that mining has given to them, education, and they want to pursue and develop those activities too, and see the importance in diversifying the activities as an assurance for their future.
Now, in Colombia, for instance, agricultural products are branded and known. So, when you're producing coffee, people are already orientated toward that. But I'm curious, do you think, like when you're a subsistence farmer, you consume what you farm. You don't consume your gold, so then they're introduced to markets. And those transactions that go along with that, do you think that the mining exposure has caused them to think about agriculture differently? Or is there some other thing driving them to think about agriculture more commercially?
Well, this was something that I was actually talking to a miner about just a few weeks ago while preparing for the panel. And he was telling me about those dynamics of them being miners and learning about certifications. And many of them were also subsistence farmers. So if they want to build a brand to distribute this, they still need to get some formalization in the agricultural aspect. And they have come a long way in mining and learning. With this specific type of mines, it's not the same case. But they have come a long way in learning about it, and it's something they could help the agriculture part of the organizations or the mining that are doing some type of agriculture to incorporate into their activities. But at the same time, there's like a dynamic that the other sector has what I want. They would want the agriculture part of it, would want to have that aspect of knowing about certifications and being formalized, but the miners would want to have that good reputation that farmers, for example, coffee farmers in Colombia have.
Interesting. Do you see it differently in Sierra Leone?
I mean, I think some of the areas where there's intensive mining going on, there is a market for food because a lot of the time the people they're mining and they're not farming. So it's interesting, you see areas that are not gold mining, the farmers will overproduce and they'll make a surplus. They'll take them to the mining areas and they'll get a higher price, and there's a ready-made market there. But I should mention, Mickey, I hope you don't mind, but Mickey Brooksfield is actually he's doing some mining with Sierra Leoneans in some of the areas that I've been working in. So you'd be, I think, a good person to sort of feedback on how that relationship is working in the area where you are around the Pampana River with respect to food. Maybe not now, but maybe when we come back to open up for questions. That'd be great.
I think sometimes when I know that if we talk about, like I mentioned, gold and agriculture, and the first thing people say is, oh, so they're going to plant over whatever they dug up when they're done. I think that's how people think of agriculture relating to gold mining, as the remediation for the mine. But they're really much more ongoing together, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, the reclamation is a big problem because, with the artisanal mining, and particularly with, the introduction of machines, it's disruptive to the environment, and a lot of the topsoil is overturned. It's difficult to get that back to a state where it's fertile land for planting. And with a license in Sierra Leone, there's a reclamation fee that you pay. So money is there; it goes into some fund somewhere. But the reclamation doesn't happen, and there's this question of whose responsibility is it to reclaim the land. You're paying, with the license, you're paying to the government. Are they supposed to do it? Is it the miner? So a lot of the time, the land just gets left in the state. And it's dangerous, these pits fill up with water, they're breeding grounds for mosquitoes and malaria, children drowned in them. It's a really big problem, I think, that needs to be addressed, definitely.
Has it been looked at differently in Central and South America?
With the certified mines, if they're gonna do some reforestation, that wouldn't be an agricultural activity. It would be returning that land into kind of the original plants that were there, and that wouldn't be the kind of a forest and not the agricultural part. Okay.
All right, well, we're going to turn it over to you now, Laura, so you can do your presentation. I'll take that.
Hi, I'm Laura Galvis. I'm Business Development Officer for the Alliance for Responsible Mining. I'm very happy and proud to be here representing the work that we are doing. And well, my job is to help to showcase what we do, what the miners do, and hopefully bring more attention to it. And for those of you that are not yet members of the Fair Mine Initiative, hopefully encourage you guys to join us. And I'm going to be talking about gold and agriculture. This is the case of the Colombian Fair Mines certified mines, which they all happen to have that coexistence of gold and agriculture. How do I do next? No.
Not advancing?
No.
Let's see, we got.
So I'm going to be addressing the 3 certified mines. The first one is Iquira, a cooperative in Colombia in the Huila region. We call our regions and states instead of states departments. Second, we have La Gabriela, which is one of the latest mines that got certified. It's very small. It's a 12 operation mine. And then an opportunity, which is the mine that brought up this intention of us to be studying and looking at the agricultural aspect of the mines, which is Chede Miner and their project to invest some of their fair mine premium into diversifying their productive activities and investing in supporting their miners and creative coffee collective with the work that they're doing. Next. So Iquira is located in Huila, Colombia. It was one of the first mines to ever get certified. This one and Oropuno in the Puno regions were the 2 first mines to get certified since 2014. So I think the goal that you guys have with the first export might have been from this mine. It's a cooperative, so a group of 18 different mines. And as I was mentioning, all of the mines that are in this region are part of this cooperative. So this was created with a lot of empowerment and that vision of creating formal mines from the beginning when this group of or community of coffee farmers got access to the mining titles and created the Iquira and the collective of mines. Next, please. This mine and its tradition and long trajectory has got them into many places. The gold from this mine has been used to do the Nobel Peace Prize and also La Palme d'Or from the Cannes Film Festival. It began their formal operations in 2004. The community has really been involved in driving change there. The community is mainly 2 towns, Iquira and Pacarni. And they are both really involved in the mining aspect of the cooperative, really. Next. It is located in this region, which is called El Huila. It is the #1 coffee productive region. It produces 16% of the coffee from Colombia. And it's a very rich area. It has a lot of protective land, but at the same time, if this is not overviewed and followed by the authorities, it has the risk that is happening here, which is that it has had a lot of improper exploitation from its rich resources. And a lot of families there in this region depend from coffee farming. Next, please. And so with how this is part of the local culture, the mine specifically has invested a large part of their premium in developing the roads and formal roads. This is a rainy area in the country and a forest area in the country. Very beautiful landscapes for all of you that have gotten to visit this mine is what you expect to see in the tropics, very green and a lot of greenery, a lot of animals too. And they have gotten to develop the roads, which not only help the productive endeavors of coffee farming in this area, but also have allowed the community to get a faster access to education and just improve accessibility in general in this region. Next, please. And one of the cases that we have here is the third generation from this mine. They wanted to bring back that coffee growing aspect from it and created this brand. One of the challenges that they have been facing while trying to source from the miners that do coffee farming is that it's not done as a formal activity. So I was mentioning it's this paradigm of wanting to teach them about certifications and the importance of doing things right, disposing the waste of coffee processing in the river and water sources, for example, something that they are already doing in mining while being certified and come a long way in learning all of these practices. They want to teach them to do it by themselves in their formalization process with coffee producing. So this is one of their main challenges, but it shows how it's possible to coexist and how that heritage that this person has specifically brings them to know and to be formal and know all of this because of his mining background, but also to bring along the heritage of being a fourth generation coffee farmer in this case. Next, please. Then we have La Gabriela mine. This is located in Antioquia, very close to Medellin, or in the northern part of Medellin. It was certified since 2021. It is a very small operation, a 12-man operation or 13-man operation. The type of extraction, as with all mines, all of these mines in Colombia, is underground extraction. Next, please. Their certification process shows how complex it can be for a small organization to become certified. They started their fair mine certification process in 2018. They were a subsistence farm. They did different activities and wanted to bring more development to the land. They were able to get also the mining titles there. So next, please. This is more about the region. So the last one, please. And then what they wanted to do was combine the different activities that they were working with to bring some productivity. Well, when they were able to get access to mining, they were also able to invest in the productive development of their agricultural operations and also some other activities that they are doing, like the fish farm that they have there. They're also beekeeping, which is another part of development and allows their forests to grow there. And that all in hand with the mining activity. Next. And then in 2022, they got a crisis. Their gold vein was lost. So right now, based on their agricultural activities and the investment of the premium, the fair mine premium, they're able to continue their research to try to find again the gold vein and also to keep the motivation of productiveness that they can do with the miners, which is very important. So their point of view out of this, starting as miners and being in this industry for just a short time, a little over 10 years, is that these are not endless resources, and so diversification for them is key to be productive and to grow and to bring economic development to the region and their workers too. Next. And so now the question is how we can integrate this. So far, what I've talked about is more of the organic way that farming and agriculture is happening around these mines, and not so much based on the mine's responsibility and the mine's commitment to making this diversification happen and supporting other productive endeavors from the miners. But the premium is really a way that they can invest and encourage and in different levels of responsibility. So next. Usually the fair mine premium is invested in these three areas of responsibility. The first one is strengthening the mining organization. Then we have the well-being of the workers and their families. And these two are the ones the mine starts to focus on and the most important for them. While they continue to develop, they focus also on the community development and the projects that benefit the surroundings. I also have the SDGs that relate to these projects specifically of including other productive activities of agriculture. Next. And we have Minachede. This is located in El Cauca, a region to the Pacific of Colombia, South Pacific of Colombia. It's been certified for 4 years, an operation of over 60 people, and also underground mining. Next. Oh, the picture. They have a really big commitment to support the communities. They're usually working with the schools, trying to create those links and supporting what is important to the community. So they came up with this idea of also supporting the activities that the miners were having. It's very traditional in this area that the miners will do the activity on themselves, and that you'll have some coffee plants, for example, growing in the backyard or in the farms that they live in. So their intention is to formalize this and create a collective of these miners. Next, please. This is also a very rich region of Colombia called El Cauca, near the Pacific Ocean, and it connects the center of this department and of this region with the sea and with all of the commercialization that happens there. And it's also a very productive region for other products like hemp, sugarcane, or pine. The gold mining activity is very traditional in this region. You will find, unlike in El Huila and in Iquira, that there are plenty of mines around, formal and informal mining happening. But this is also an area that is characterized by the influence of armed groups and very affected by the violence in Colombia. So it's challenging for these organizations to find different types of economic development activities to do while still fighting and still challenging with that formalization and being allowed to work in these regions. Next, please. And then what's their product of and the development opportunity that they're bringing in is to invest their premium, part of their premium, to the development of their business plan and business case to create, engage with the community, to create a coffee collective alongside all of the miners that they're working with to create a brand and encourage formalization from all of these miners. Right now, this mine is also challenging right now with their supply chain. They lost the opportunity to make sales from March of this year, just issues with commercialization and lack of demand from the purchaser. They were working with a single supplier. So it's also been a challenge for them, and the fair mine credits have been the opportunity for them to continue working and to get a premium this year. So this is also an opportunity for anyone that wants to engage with fair mine credits or that is interested in building a new supply chain and maybe getting access to a new source of gold from Colombia and building a new supply chain to engage with them. Their production is about 2 kilos of gold per month. And so it's a great opportunity to develop this. Next one, their project requires the premium for approximate the sales of 2 kilos of gold. It would signify for them to be able to hire someone that helps them with that business case, also to do some marketing for them and the materials required to start the coffee operation in the mine. And that's it.
Is that it?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So let's take a couple of minutes for questions, just because I don't want to break for lunch without you guys being able to ask.
Hi, great presentation. Brian Cook here. There's so much I could say. But I totally endorse agriculture with artisanal mining. It goes together perfectly, and the examples you just gave show what can be achieved. You run out of a gold vein, yet you still have activity, you have economic, you have food security. So I fully endorse it. Just a quick question. In Sierra Leone, the women are out doing all the work mining. What are the men doing at this time?
Brian, a lot of us ask that all the time.
Looking for diamonds and not finding any. No, it's a big issue. I mean, typically with women in rural Africa, we talk about the triple burden. You know, women are working domestically, they're working productively, they're working reproductively. It's a patriarchal system that is very unequal. So, you know, but at the same time, it's what there is, and you know, it's difficult, I think, to intervene in those sort of cultural, traditional systems. Yeah.
A quick thing, in the Brazilian Amazon, where we're monitoring tin and topaz mining, similar situation with the alluvial moving tons of sand in the pits where the water's accumulated, turning into fish farms. It's produced a lot of protein, and that's an interesting option.
It works well as long as mercury is not being used for extraction.
Yeah, right. All right, thanks.
Thank you. This one back there.
Hi, thank you so much. So as I was sitting here listening to Roy and then Laura, I thought, gosh, wouldn't it be amazing if those women in Sierra Leone could be, you know, on the road to Fair Mind? What would that kind of thing take? Is that ever possible? Am I crazy?
For artisanal miners to become Fair Mine certified, it would be very difficult because of the very progressive requirements of the standard. But they could start with trying to implement the craft code, and that would be a great road. And a great thing if I could connect you with our project manager from Africa too, to engage in these projects.
Absolutely. I mean, I could just see, you know, what's being done with that premium. It is so positive. And, you know, the women that I've been working with are just looking for someone to buy the gold at any price. And it's a completely different world, isn't it?
Yeah. In Sierra Leone, we have achieved the craft code on the mines that Pact is working on in gold. There's not a focus on women yet, but I'm after them to focus on that. But my question is for Roy. I've been understanding that the Sierra Leonean regulatory framework is now possibly allowing for direct export of gold to international buyers. Is that right, or is that not right and a work in progress? Because it could open up new opportunities for markets here, for example, instead of having to go through the mafia that's in Freetown, for example.
Yeah, no, I think is that correct, Mickey? I mean, you're involved in the sharp end there, but as far as I know, that's right, isn't it? There you go. So anyone here who wants to get access to Sierra Leonean gold, you know who to talk to.
I think we have time for one more question.
Just with your work with Sierra Leone, and that's why I love coming to conferences like this, because you then see like sparks of idea. I love the idea of agriculture and mining gold side by side, because I'm thinking of, like you were talking about and I was mentioning earlier, like when they're trying to sell their gold or sell their gemstone, it's like, I need to feed my family now. But if there's agriculture going along on the side, that is a way for them to eat, but also to then have another source of revenue, right? Diversification. I'm just wondering, culturally, I'm not too familiar with Sierra Leone. In parts of Nigeria, farming is like a big thing for men. So I'm wondering, is that what the men are doing? Are they farming versus mining gold? And do you see that working side by side, like women and men working, if we're able to combine the farming with the mining of gold?
Yeah. So with the farming, there is a sort of division of labor between what men do on the farms and what women do. So there's certain jobs that men will do, and then women will be involved in other jobs, and children will also be involved. And this is, this is a contentious issue because, we're all aware that child labor is a big issue for things like certification and stuff. But, in a typical African rural household, a good child is a child who contributes and works. So they'll be doing light work alongside. With the mining, it's very much the diamond mining has been very much dominated by men because it's more sexy to mine diamonds, to find a big diamond that's going to lift everyone out of poverty. And then the women have been very quietly mining on the side. So you get these two, distinct sort of divisions of gender divisions of labor.
Let's take one more question and then we'll wrap.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to applaud Roy for the work he's doing in Sierra Leone. He really hits it spot on. I'm 50 years in Sierra Leone. I went to Sierra Leone. I'm a diamond cutter by trade. Martin DeWitt here, the diamond wizard, and I learned how to cut diamonds together. And my journey, I went downstream, he went upstream, and I went to Sierra Leone in 1978. Fell in love with the country, fell in love with a young lady, got married, have a son. I have a small cutting shop in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he works with me there and in Sierra Leone. So I have family in Sierra Leone. And so I went there for the diamonds. And the men do the diamonds, the women would work the gold. And that's been the tradition in Sierra Leone. So, and this support system that is working now for the women was developed in the diamond area, mostly by the diamond dealers there, which are traditionally, it's a big Lebanese community. They're the traders in all over Africa, and they developed this system. The local Sierra Leoneans have no other way to finance themselves but this support system. So it works somewhat. It works well for the Lebanese. And I kind of got inherited into the gold mining activity because I know the country, I speak the language, and I was able to procure some land along the Papana River, which Roy is talking about. This is the best gold area. The gold is 94% pure. And I inherited some equipment, so I got involved with the gold. And
Hey, Mickey.
Uh-huh.
I hate to interrupt you, but can I invite everybody to talk to Mickey so that we've got one more person that needs to come up on stage, and then we've got a break for lunch. Did you want to ask a question of these guys, or?
No, I just wanted to make a
Sure,
statement. I want to
okay.
applaud Roy for the work he's doing, and the agriculture. I'm worried about that as well because mercury is now starting to get in there, and if I don't know how they're going to reclimate these areas with that gold contamination.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I'd like to thank Laura Galvis with Alliance for Responsible Mining and Roy Maconachie with the University of Bath for giving us some additional insight into agriculture and gold mining. So thank you, both of you. So then this morning, we talked about, I think I have both mics on. That's just ridiculous. We talked about asking the question, what can I do? And I told you Anna Samsonova had an idea. So I'm going to turn it over to you because it's a good one.
Hi, guys. So I think there are a few people in the room that were not here yesterday, but we had a very important conversation about sex trafficking. And I think a lot of people were moved by it and wanted to know what can be done. And one of the biggest things that they're working towards is getting a chicken coop. So I want Abby to quickly tell what that chicken coop could do for the people that weren't here yesterday, and then I'll tell you my thought.
Thank you. Good day. So we are looking into,
Just higher up.
kind of supporting the survivors, because their story is mainly about welfare, livelihoods, and maybe to try and help them to pick themselves up, and also to support the general populace of the ladies to engage, to speak out, to have a voice, to find the means to communicate through our very popular Tuesday talks. So we are thinking, should we have the chicken coop project? They rear some flock of chicken. We call them broilers. I don't know what you call them here. Then they sell them and generate revolving income, which they can then help. RJT has been doing monthly data bundles per woman, about $5 per month per woman, for them to be able to access WhatsApp. So every Tuesday, each lady with a compatible phone, if they have, can engage with the rest, tell their story, their experiences, their grievances, and everything. And that is the way that we use to identify victims and to support the survivors. So we would like to keep this ongoing, but we have reached a point where we need to assist them also to generate that income per month so that things can be easy a bit.
Perfect, thank you. We've done the calculations for a full build on a chicken coop, which is $7,600. This gives enough chickens for the first round, which is 500. And then this would be self-sustaining and make enough income for the monthly data to be paid for 100 members of Marangi Women's Alliance, plus hopefully making more money and some other overhead to help the impact and bring in some of the events that they like to do right now. It's being solely sponsored through Responsible Jewelry Transformative, which is me, and and so it would be really wonderful. Everyone's been asking for this. As per usual, before coming here, before talking, one of the things we asked everybody in Marangi Women's Alliance leadership, what do you want? Do you want the sex trafficking billboard funded? What do you want to ask for? And resoundingly, it's the chicken coop, because they've done the numbers. They want to be self-sustaining. They want to stand on their own 2 feet. So that is what they've asked for, is the chicken coop. We have 100 people signed up. Anna?
So as Susan was about to say, there are 100 people that are here in the room and online. That number was 7,610. That is only $76 a person. So I really, really encourage all of you to get out your phones, scan this QR code. Please donate what you can, even if it's skipping your Starbucks and donating $5. If you can do more than the 76, that's wonderful. It can help out the person that can do less, but really would love to come back on stage at the end of the day today and say that we got this chicken coop for them. So please scan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In our culture and somehow we believe that when you go with a plate, somebody will ask you, what do you have? So on behalf of Marangi women, we are going to start, I am going to start personally as an individual, the ball rolling. When I left home, I had built, a little project that I had done, brick making. So I had 10,000 bricks, you know, the common bricks, intending to build a round kitchen, you know, our round kitchen huts with thatch on them. So I intended to build that, but I couldn't. Right in the heart of the concession, that's where I wanted to build that kitchen, but it's impossible because of, you know, the dynamics that prevail there. So I'm channeling the 10,000 bricks to the chicken coop to start it. The whole thing. Thank you.